Hey, this is Cameron Delo, and this is Music Theory Mondays. Today we will be covering how to build major chords, minor chords, augmented chords, diminished, major 7, and 7 chords. And I'll demonstrate this with the whiteboard as well as on guitar. And let's go ahead and get started. All right, so every one of those chords I had mentioned previously, the minor, the diminished, the augmented, the major 7, and the 7 chord will all contain a major triad, which it will be your first, third, and fifth note of a major scale. So every one of those chords contain this. So we're going to cover right now how to build a major triad and how it works in a typical major chord when you're looking at it as a guitar player. So, like I said, it's the first, third, and fifth note of a major scale. It can be any major scale. It all depends on what you're trying to build. Right here, we have G major scale, okay, which is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp notes. Now, like I said, to build a major triad, you're going to need the first, third, and fifth of that to make a G major chord or a G major triad, 3-note chord. So you're going to need G, which is your first, so I have written down right here, B, which is your third, and D, which is your fifth of that major to make that G major chord, okay, or G major triad. See, it's the same thing, you know, as a guitar player. Most all of us know a G major chord. It's everywhere. But if we're spelling it out to kind of see how this is actually working, G, B, D, you have your major triad right there. But to play the full chord, G, B, G, some of the notes are doubled up. And that's okay. It's still a major chord. Nice and happy sounding. Right here, I'm actually doubling up the D note rather than the B. It all depends on the way you play it. So you can have G, B, D right here. There's a G triad. But typically for this fingering, we're going to lay the first finger flat across first and second string third frets. It's like your F shape, if you're more familiar with that, on third fret. So yes, the first, third, and fifth note of any major scale will be how you build that particular chord. So if we did let's give one more example. C major. So your C is, the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So we got to find the first, third, and fifth to build a C major chord or C major triad. C, E, and G, okay? First, third, and fifth note. So if I'm going to play a traditional, we'll call it cowboy chord, traditional C major chord, we have C, E, G, C, E. I actually hit that note. Wow. Anyways, yes. So we have first, third, fifth, doubled up root, which is first, and third. So there you have it. To build a major chord or a major triad, it's the first, third, and fifth note of a major scale, whatever particular major scale you're looking for, G, D, A, you name it, it's the first, third, and fifth note of that. And to play a chord, play a version of this, you can double up certain notes. So now we're going to talk about minor chords or minor triads. To build this, you need the previous knowledge of what I just talked about, the major chords or the major triads, and you need just a quick formula. So in order to make a G major, since we're talking in G major, in order to make that a minor chord, we know the notes are G, B, and D. So you have first, third, and fifth, G, B, D. You would flat the third notes. Only the third note, okay? You don't do anything else to the first or fifth note to make this a minor chord or minor triad. Now, I can visually show you what I mean by this. So if we have G, B, D. Use that kind of F shape. Okay, so we have G, B, D, and I said G was the third, and you got to flat that. So that just means lower it 1 fret. Gets at that sad sound. G, B flat, D. It's not a very practical chord in an open position. I could show you in various bar chords, but so we have here G, D, G, B, G, D, G. Almost said it wrong. G, D, G, B, D, G. There we go. So again, you're going to only lower that third note to B. G, D, G, B, B flats. Okay. You could do it here too. G, D, G, B. Remember, you want to make it a B flat. So you go, so you have so there you have it. The first, third, and fifth notes, the major triad, to make it minor, you flat the third. We could do one more. So let's say we're in C major again. So you know, as I said before, 3 notes of C major triad is C, E, and G. Well, to make that minor now, you would just lower the third, flat it. So it would be C, E flat, G. C, E flat, G. I could show you right here. So here's a C, nice C major chord. With that F shape. In case you didn't know, it's a movable shape. Root's our first note. It's on 10th fret of 4th string. Okay? Well, we have C, E, G, C. So your E needs to be lowered. So right here is your E. Just bring it down 1 fret. So now it looks like this. C minor. Okay? C, E flat, G. You do it here, you have a C major chord. C, G, C, E, G, C. Okay? Well, we got to flat that third, so we got to find the third again. C, G, C, E. Oh, lower this. Just lift up that finger. You're barring across. Got that sad minor sound. Go back up here. C, G, C, E. Okay. So we got to find that E again. C, G, C, E. Lower it 1. You got E flat. E flat. Okay. So it's got that minor sound. So formula for minor is take the major triad and flat the third. Major triad is first, third, and fifth. Minor triad is first, flat 3, and fifth. All right, augmented chords are augmented triads. The formula, like I said, and I'll say this over and over again like a broken record, is built from the formula from the major chord or the major triad. The first, third, and fifth note of a major scale, whichever one you're looking at. And in this case, unlike the minor, where the minor just flatted the third, this is just first, third, sharp 5. You raise the 5, which is sharp. So it's first, third, and sharp 5. Okay? So if you looked at it, G, B, D sharp. You don't do anything to the third, okay? Just G, B, D sharp, augmented, sharp the 5, okay? So that being said, I'll show you just like I've been doing before. So like I said, same idea of being built from the major triad. So we'll find, since we're doing G, we'll find right here. sure my amp is on. There we go. All right, so we have a G, B, D, G, just like what we've been doing with that F shape. Now we got to sharp the 5. So G, B, D sharp. So you just raise that note 1. Here's your D, 3rd fret, 2nd string, and that'll be 4th fret. Kind of a tense sounding chord. What's going to happen next? So you're sharping the 5, raising the 5th. G, B, D sharp. Show you another way to play it. G, B, D. D would be 3rd string, 7th fret. Well, in this case, you're going to raise it. So it'll be 3rd string, 8th fret. And then a G, 8th fret, 2nd string. So you can play it like this. Okay. And another way to play the same one. G, D, G, B. Your G bar chord. You could, not a very practical way of doing this, but you could raise the 5th right here, put your pinky right on, instead of it being 12th fret D on 4th string, it's 13th fret D sharp on the 4th string. What was I thinking? So it would look like this. Like I said, not very practical. I wouldn't typically play this, just a demonstration. Okay. Now, as I've been showing, you could do this with other keys. We'll keep doing it with C. So why stop? So you're 3 notes of a C chord, or C major triad, C, E, and G. So that means you would sharp the 5th and the C major chord, and that would be C, E, G sharp. C, E, G sharp. Okay? So we could use, typically these same shapes I just did would work, but it's a good demonstration. So if we're going to go here, the F shape for C, C, E, G, C. Okay? Well, you gotta sharp the 5th or raise the 5th. So it'd be C, E, G sharp. Tense chord again. What will happen next in Cameron D-Lo music? No one knows. Only Cameron does. All right. So now we'll show the bar chord shape. C, G, C, E, and you gotta find a G sharp. So you gotta put the other 2 down, like it's not very practical. Okay, so to make an augmented chord, you sharp the 5th. So G, G, B, D sharp. Okay, and same thing with C, C, E, G sharp. You're sharpening the 5th of that major triad. All right, so we've talked about major, we've talked about minor, we've talked about augmented. Now we're going to talk about diminished. Diminished is built again, just like all of them. Like I said, I just keep repeating it because I want to drive the point home. That it's all built from the major triad, the 1st, 3rd, and 5th note of a major scale. 1st, 3rd, and 5th note of a major scale. As I said, in G major, that's G, B, D. Okay? Well, in order to make this diminished, the new rule is you start with your G, and to make it diminished, you flat the 3rd and you flat the 5th. 3rd and 5th. You flat the 3rd and 5th. Okay? Flat 3rd, flat 5th. That would make it diminished. I will demonstrate it again. So we have G, B, D. That's your regular old G major chord. Your F shape, your G on the top. Hey, what up, G? Well, that's what's up, G. Anyways, so you gotta flat the 3rd. B flat, you went from B, 4th fret, 3rd string. Now you gotta go to 3rd fret, 3rd string. Now you got to flat the fifth, which is 3rd fret D on the 2nd string. Then you got to flat D flat. So you have G, B flat, D. This is not the kind of chord you're going to hear in a regular old pop song. I mean, you can, but it's much too ugly for the masses' ears, typically. I mean, it's not, yeah. Anyways, so you flat the 3rd and the 5th. I'll show you another shape. So let's do our major bar chord, 10th fret, 5th string roots on for G major. Now we go G, D, G, B flat. Well, we got to flat, because the order of this now, we got to flat the 5th, which is the D, so we got to do D flats, which are going from 12th fret on 4th string to 11th fret 4th string, 11th fret 4th string, 11th fret 4th string. So you went from 12th fret 4th string D to D flat on 11th fret. Gotta drive that home. Fret 4th string. Okay, so now you have G. You got a G right here, and then you got a B. So you got to lower the B as well. That's your 3rd. So you got to get a B flat. So instead of 12th fret 2nd string, you want 11th fret 2nd string. So that's your B flat. So you play it like this. Get a good angle so you can see me. Anyways, yes. So I'll do one more G, and then I'll show you in C, as I've been showing. So you got G. Let's go with G major chords. So let's say that first. G, D, G, B. Well, we got to flat the 3rd and the 5th. So we got G. We're going to change our D on 5th string to a D flat, which is 4th fret 5th string. Keep that G since that's your root. And actually, I'm in the right position for this now. So you got a B, you got to make a B flat. So 3rd fret of 3rd string rather than 4th fret B. 3rd string, it's B flat, 3rd fret, 3rd string. So it would be like this. I should put a song where there are all forms of the diminished triads. It's yeah, I'm not trying to diminish it or anything. Ha ha ha. Oh, it was. I should put a laugh track on this one. That would be kind of cool. But if I do, maybe I'll edit this part out so I don't talk about the laugh track before I talk about it, which will cause the world to explode because it'll be breaking that 4th wall. And anyways, so C. Okay, so we will go with our C major triad, 10th fret. It's the F shape, 10th fret, 4th string. You got C, E, G. You got to flat the 3rd and the 5th. So instead of E on 9th fret, 3rd string, you're going to have E flat, 8th fret, 3rd string. And instead of 8th fret, 2nd string, you're going to have G flat on 7th fret of the 2nd string. Did I say that right? If I didn't say it right, comment below and tear me a new one. No. So it's C, E flat, G flat. Just like this one back here. Like I said, it's not the most common, lovely chord. So the chord spelling for C, E flat, G flat, that's diminished triad. So now we will do another C. Let's do C, let's do that. 4, 5, 3rd fret, 5th string, root, C major chord. So there you have it. The G diminished chord, or the diminished chord in general, is you flat the third and you flat the fifth. Doesn't matter what the root is. Again, it's the same rule as any of these. You're starting with a major triad, and depending on the key, it can be C, G, A, any of those. You just flat the third and the fifth. In this case, it's G, B flat, D flat, rather than G, B, D. All right, now we're breaking away from those 3-note chords, those triads, and we're introducing you to perhaps one of the most beautiful chords in the world, the major 7. The major 7 will contain the major triad, first, third, and fifth of a major scale, but it will also contain the 7th note of that particular major scale. So in this case, we have G, B, D is your major chord or major triad. We put on the very top, we put an F sharp, or the very end of it, I should say, in the spelling. We have F sharp, because that's the 7th note. 1, 3, 5, 7. That's how you spell out your major 7. First, third, fifth, and the 7th note of the scale. Now, another way to look at this, I kind of put this, and it's kind of hard to read. I still practicing my whiteboard writing. But so it's a half step lower than root, meaning that so your root being your first note of that particular chord. Say right here we have a G. Half step would be just going back 1 fret. So it's just 1 fret away from that first note. Okay, so we have G. Well, here's an F sharp. Or we have a C. Here's a B. You could use this for any key. Oh, you have an A. Oh, the note before it's a G sharp. So now we know a G sharp is the major 7 of an A major 7 chord, so on. But that's not the chord we're talking about. We're talking about a G major 7, okay? So we have a G, B, D, and F sharp. We could go with our F shape that we've been using. Which is G, B, D, G, B, D, G. I can hit that note apparently. Okay, well now we gotta add in the 7th note. Well, like I said, it's a half step lower than root, so instead of 3rd fret 1st string, now we're gonna have 2nd fret 1st string. So get kind of into a big jazz chord, which is beautiful. Like I said, very beautiful chord. So you have G, B, D, F sharp. You have all the notes you need, okay? Now, let's go to that form 5 major triad. So we have G, D, G, B. And I forgot to say, and you might already gather because we've done this a bunch of times now in this video. This is form 5, G, 5th string, root on the 10th fret. Okay. So we gotta find a place to put that F sharp. We have G, D, G, B. Well, you already have a G. So why don't we change that right here? Instead of G here, 12th fret 3rd string, we'll have 11th fret 3rd string. So we have this. Okay. So now let's say we're talking in terms of C, because like I said, all these can be changed around, everything. So it will be a half step lower than a C, or the 7th note of the C major scale. So if we went through all the notes of the C major scale, we got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So it's a B, okay? Because, you know, it's 8 notes of the scale, and so it repeats at 8, so it's a B, okay? So we have, we can use that same shape. F shape, 10th fret, 4th string, C, E, G, C, lower a half step, so you got a B right here. So it's an 8th fret C on first string. It is 7th fret B on first string. Okay. C, E, G, B. I can barely hit that note. It sounds awful, I know. Anyways, okay, so we got a C major 7. Now, we can go right here. Form 5, 5th string, 3rd fret. C is your roots. C, G, C, E. And we can lower that C on 3rd string, 5th fret. Lower that to B, 3rd string, 4th fret. So C, G, B, E. Okay, so in order to make a major 7 chord, you need the major triad, 1st, 3rd, and 5th, and the 7th note of the major scale, or thought of as a half step lower than the root, the 1 of that scale. All right, we've talked about a lot of chords today, but last, but definitely not least, we have the dominant 7 chord. Very prominent in pretty much all styles of music. And the 7 chord is going to be spelled like all the other chords. It's going to contain the major triad, the 1st, 3rd, and 5th note of a major scale. But like the major 7 chord, it also contains 1 extra note. So it's no longer a triad, it's a full-blown chord. It's officially graduated and it's an adult chord now. So in like how the major 7 was just a half step lower than root, which is, you know, like in G, that would be just adding the 7th note. So G would be F sharp for major 7. Well, in this case, to make it a dominant 7 or a 7 chord, we actually are going to lower it a full step. So two frets lower than root. So it's an F note rather than an F sharp. Say that again. So to make it a dominant 7, you lower it 2 frets lower than the root. So now it's an F. That works anywhere. C, we're on C. 2 frets lower than C is a B flat. So there's your 7 for a dominant 7 chord. It's typically only written in most books and everything. It's written just as, you know, a 7 next to it. Okay, nothing fancy, but it's a dominant 7 chord. Okay, so like I said, it's the 1st, 3rd, 5th. And a flat 7, okay? So instead of in G major, instead of just adding the 7, which would be a major 7, you add a flat 7, which if you flat F sharp, turns it into an F, okay? So if we were to play that, you know, we could go, let's go over here, yeah. Okay, so G, we have a G. Or sorry, what am I thinking? What in the, oh, sorry. G, D, G, B. Yeah, I'll play it that way. G, D, G, B. G, D, G, B. Well, to make this much more comfortable, much more comfortable, we're going to take this G and lower it 2 frets, which would be a whole step lower. There's an F right here. Instead of 8th fret, 2nd string G, you have 6th fret, 2nd string F, okay? So you still have G, D, B on first string, but now you have the F on second string, 6th fret. So like I said, it's lowering it 2 frets or a whole step lower than the root. So you notice that the F shape wouldn't work. That should actually be the cover of this this video. I think that's what I'm going to do. Anyways, I would not play that what I just played. That was just a demonstration. You know how it would make it a dominant 7. But anyways, we could also do a form 5, G major, 10th frets. You'd have G, D, G, B. We have a G right here. You have a G right here. So I take this and lower it a whole step, or 2 frets. You got that F right here. Instead of 12th fret, 3rd string G, you have 10th fret, 3rd string F. Just snap my middle finger off so I'm not making this video inappropriate. And it's out of the way. So yeah. So you have a G7 right there. And you could also go your regular old form 6, 3rd fret G major bar chord. So you could go G, D, G, B. Well, we gotta take that G right here, your 5th fret G on 4th string. You're gonna lower that 2 frets or a whole step lower than root. There's your F. So now, instead of 5th fret G, 4th string, you have 3rd fret F, 4th string. Okay, so now let's look at it as C. Okay, so now you have, so we'll go here. Like I said, the F shape doesn't necessarily work here. So instead of breaking my hand again to demonstrate that, I'll show you like this. So typically, you see G, C, E. You have C right here, so you're going to lower it a whole step lower than roots, or 2 frets lower than roots. And there's a B flat, okay? So B flat. So in the key of C, it's C, E, G, B flat, okay? Or 1st, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, okay? So C, G, B flat, E. Okay? We can go to the 3rd fret, form 5, C. And we got C, G, C, E. Well, we gotta get that. We gotta take that C, 5th fret, 3rd string, lower it 2 frets, and you have a B flat. 5th fret, 3rd string C to 3rd fret, 3rd string B flat. So you have C, G, B flat, E, covering all your bases. Now you could go one last thing, one very last chord. Your form 6 C major on 8th fret, 6th string is your root. So you have C, G, C, E, G. Your C right here on 10th fret, 4th string. You would just lower that 2 frets or a whole step lower than root, and you got your B flat right here. So instead of a 10th fret, 4th string C, you have 8th fret, 4th string B flat. So to spell out your dominant 7 chords, or your 7 chords, it is 1st, 3rd, 5th, and flat 7. Okay, again, 1st, 3rd, 5th, and flat 7, as demonstrated here. G, B, D, and rather than the regular old F sharp, we flat it, and that makes it an F. Okay, so as I stated at the beginning of the video, I will be doing a future video where I cover different kind of chords, like a minor 7 flat 5, a suspended, 9ths, 11ths, 13ths, things like that. So yeah, look forward for that. I want you to look forward to that into the future, and maybe next week. Maybe I will bring it to you next week. Who knows? But yes, look for a new music theory topic every Monday, and I will be posting it, I believe, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific time on Mondays. Every Monday, new music theory topic. And make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that little bell because it tells you when I'm making a new video or when I have a new video. And like I said, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, you name it. It's great for the algorithm and will help me kick butt in my takeover of the music world. All right. I will see you next time. There's been a lot of talking in this video, so before I start falling all over my words, again, I will see you next time. Hey, this is Cameron Delo, and welcome to Music Theory Mondays. Today we'll be talking about harmonizing the major scale. And what this means is, in this particular case, I have written out a C major scale, okay? You will take each one of these notes and turn them into a chord in that particular key. We'll talk about which ones are major and minor and how it all works. This is kind of a culmination of our last week's chord spelling and our circle of fifths lesson. All that will help. So I'd kind of recommend seeing those two first, but you can go in cold without knowing either of those. You can get something out of this. At least I would like to think so. So let's go ahead and get started. We're talking about harmonizing the major scale in this lesson. What that essentially means is taking, in this case, I have C major written out. I did this simply because there's, as you know from the music theory, from the circle of fifths lesson, that there's no sharps or flats in the key of C major. So it's a little easier to follow when you're first beginning to do this stuff. So I have it written out in the key of C major. It essentially means that each one of these notes turns into a chord. Now, it's always in the same order of which ones are major and minor if you're following major scales. If you turn into a natural minor, a harmonic minor, that changes everything. We can get to those down the line. This lesson's about harmonizing the major scale, okay? So your one, it stands to reason that your one will be a major chord because it's key of C major. So one's a C major chord. 2 and 3 are minor, okay? 4, 5, major. 6 is minor. 7 is diminished. Say it again. You may remember because they're Roman numerals. Capital Roman numeral means major. Lowercase Roman numeral means minor, okay? So you got a 1 major. 2 and 3 minor. 4 and 5 major. 6 minor. And 7 is diminished, okay? So that is, like I said, that's always when you're doing a major scale. It changes if you switch to minor or harmonic minor, but major scale, it's always going to have that same order of major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, and diminished. Okay, so now we know which ones are major and minor in a major scale, okay? Well, from our chord spelling lesson, I used the same idea as we did last week, okay? I spelled each one of these out so you can visually see it. Now, if we take a look at these, C, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, D, F, A. What do you notice? Well, the thing you should notice right away is there's no sharps or flats in any of those chords. Well, if we changed one of them from minor to major or major to minor, it's sort of like cutting off a piece of you have a puzzle piece and it's supposed to fit in the corner, but you shave it down so it fits on another. It doesn't work. Like, are you trying to ram it into a different spot? It doesn't work. So all of this I kind of feel like is a puzzle piece. So if you went with 2, which is a D in the key of C, and you went with 2, so it's D, F, A, because you flat the third. Okay. Well, if you didn't flat the third, you made it major. D, F sharp, A. Where is there an F sharp here? There's no F sharp. So again, it's like trying to make a puzzle piece fit somewhere it doesn't, and it wouldn't sound right. You have a note that's out of key. Okay. Same thing with any of these. You had an E major. Well, instead of flat in the 3, now it would be E, G sharp, B. Okay. Well, where is there a G sharp up here? You know, that's if you're playing E major rather than minor. Where is there a G sharp up here? There isn't. Again, it's trying to ram that puzzle piece in there, and it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. So same thing with diminished. Let's look at that one. If you turn that into a major, so you, as you know from the chord spelling, with a diminished, you flat the third and you flat the fifth. Okay? Well, that would mean if this is diminished, I mean you need a D sharp and F sharp to spell a B chord. B, D sharp, F sharp. Again, B, D sharp, F sharp to make it major. Okay? To make it minor, or sorry, diminished, that's what we're talking about. You flat the third and the fifth. That's why you have a D and an F, okay, to fit within this. Because a D sharp is not up here, and F sharp is not up here. So in order to make it fit, you make it diminish, okay? And, you know, you could change the whole key of all of this and everything, and all of it works. All of it is I'll write another board out, and I'll put it at the very end so you can visually see it. But these are major and minor because they fit within that particular key. This is C, so there's no sharps or flats. If you look on here, there's no sharps or flats here. Okay, so we've looked at harmonizing the major scale, and we've looked at which ones are major and which ones are minor. We've looked at, you know, why, from a theoretical standpoint, that certain ones are major and minor, because they fit into that key like a puzzle piece. But now we're going to look at it from the perspective of the guitar. Now, it would be quite funny if I'm like, from the perspective of bagpipes. No. I don't own bagpipes. That would be kind of cool. It would probably get people to run away and stop the video right now. No offense to people who have dedicated their lives to bagpipes, but it probably wouldn't work for this lesson. But anyways, I'm going to show you, because like I said, we've talked about it from which ones are major and minor, and we talked about it from the theoretical standpoint of how they fit into that key. And we're talking about the key of C, obviously, as I've said many times in this lesson. But we're going to show you with bar chords on the guitar. And I'm going to be doing it, well, first I'm going to show you the major scale, C major scale on the 5th string. So it goes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay? That's going to be your roots of the chords that I'm going to show you in just a second. And I'll tell you the frets. 3rd, 5th, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. Okay? Well, your 1 is major. Okay? So this is your root C. C, C, G, C, E. Well, you need to flat the 3 because of the E. And they're out of order, by the way, because, you know, it's just the way the bar chords sit. It's not C, E, G, it's C, G, C, E. Okay. Well, if you look on here, you need a refresher. E is the 3rd. If we change this to minor, flat the 3, that makes it C, E flat, G. And if you look on here, there's no E flats, okay? So that's why we keep it C, G, C, E. Okay? Because everything's natural in the key of C. Now we go up to the 5th fret, our D. This is a D minor. D, A, D minor, D, A, D, F. Okay? Well, none of them are sharp or flat. That's why they all fit within key of C. If we have this as D major, D, A, D, F sharp. There's no F sharp up here, so he would be wrong. So that's why 2 is minor. So 1 major, 2 minor, and we're going to move up to 7th fret, E. E, this is minor, E minor, E, B, G. All natural, no sharps or flats. That's why it fits. If we change this to major, we had instead of E, G, B, we had E, G sharp, B, instead of flat in the 3. Doesn't fit because there's no G sharp up here. So we have 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor. We go up to 8th fret, and that's an F. F, C, F, it's all natural here, so it fits. Okay? Well, if you flatted the 3, the A, it wouldn't work because there's no A flat in there. There's no A flat in the key of C. So 4 is major. So 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5, which is 10th fret, G, G, G. All natural, so it fits. But again, we're given all these hypothetical situations. If we went and changed this to a G minor, G, B flat, D, G, B flat, D, because you flat the 3rd, you would go G, G, B flat, G flat. Where is the flat up here? Where is the B flat, I should say? There isn't. Like, you're like, Cameron, I know where you're going with this. Well, you do, but that's a good thing because that means I taught you something well. But so 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 major. Now we're on 6. Your A minor, so you move that up to 12th fret root. All natural, fits in that key. Okay. Well, if I change this, got it right here. If I made this back to major, A, C sharp, E. You already know where I'm going with this, but is there a C sharp up here? No, there's no C sharp in the key of C major. That would be really weird if it was like C, C sharp, D. It would have like some chromatic thing going on. No, so there's no C sharp in the key of C. That's why we have the chord spelling we have, and that's why 1 is major, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor, and now we're at the very last one. We move the root up to 14, and on 14 it's a B. We have B, I wasn't gonna get that one out. I'm actually, if you're wondering how I'm playing this, I'm killing the 3rd string to make it diminished. Okay, so here you can look at it. B, F, D. Are any of those sharp or flat? No, they're all natural, so they fit. Now, if I change this to a regular old B major, that would mean you change this to, it's not flat anymore, so it's D sharp. Not flat anymore, so it's F sharp. Where is there a D sharp and an F sharp? I know what you're thinking. Just please quit asking the same question. Well, I'm driving the point home, aren't I? So there's no D sharp and there's no F sharp. Okay? So that's why we have D, F, D. That's why that one's diminished. So we have 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 major, 6 minor, and 7 diminished. Okay? So as you can see, they all line up like a puzzle piece, as I said. They all line up to fit in that particular key. I'll have another whiteboard example at the very end. I'll put a different key so you can see how it all works and see how you would apply the same knowledge to a different key. But if the note doesn't fit in the chord, if the note from the chord doesn't fit in that key, like a G sharp in the key of C doesn't fit, then it's wrong. It's you have your number mixed up. You could be having like, oh, I'm on well, since I said G sharp, I think that's what I said, right? Let's say I was saying E major. Oh wait, no, that's not supposed to be major. That's supposed to be minor because it's E, G, B, because all the notes are natural. So that's how you harmonize a major scale. It's really quite simple. You just memorize at first. You memorize, which ones are major and minor. Then you can spell them out the same way I did. It's better to have that knowledge than to not, and it will help you. If you're writing a song in the key of C, you want to keep it all in the key of C. You can follow these rules and go, oh wait, I can use a D minor. Oh wait, I can use a B diminished. You can follow all of that, and it would help you a great deal. And, if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. It's good for the algorithm. Ring the little bell so that you know when I post a new video. And I'm very happy that you keep joining me each week for these music theory lessons. I'm enjoying them a lot, as you can probably tell. And yeah, make sure you join me again next week for another exciting topic in the world of music theory, that is. And I will see you next week. Bye. Hey, this is Cameron Delo, and welcome to Music Theory Mondays. Today we'll be talking about transposing a lick, riff, or melody to a different key. And we have 4 ways to go about this. They're all very useful. They're all very fun. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. Okay, so our first way of transposing, in this case, a melody. So you look back here, I have happy birthday written up there. Why would I put happy birthday up there, you may ask? It's kind of I shouldn't even say kind of, it is a universally known song. And I wanted to choose something like that so you would have an easier reference point rather than I could choose some jazz song, metal song, rock song, pop song, and maybe somebody won't get it. I mean, true, we have all the access in the world to listen to this stuff, but it's good to have an overall reference point that we'll all understand. Okay, so our first example, like I said, is Happy Birthday, and we'll be using the overall key of the song, meaning Happy Birthday right here is written in the key of C. I have it written right there. I also have key of C major written up there as a reference point, and as well as key of G major. So probably guess we're actually going to be putting it in the key of G major as well. Okay, so if you look at the first couple notes of Happy Birthday, starts with a G, 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 A, G, C. Okay, well, the numbers written above are actually the scale degrees that you're referencing, meaning a G is the 5th note of the C major scale. So you have a 5 2 times, to an A, which is the 6th note of the C major scale, to another G, again the 5th note, to a C, which is your 1. So essentially it's 5, 5, 6, 5, 1. Okay. Well, if you wanted to right away put that in the key of G major, your first thought would be, okay, what are the notes in G major? What are the overall notes in the key of G major? Well, the overall notes are written right here. We have a cheater guide, so to speak. So you want to go 5, 5, 6, 5, 1 in the key of G. So what is the 5 in G? D. So you go D, D to a 6, E, D, another 5, and then a G. So it'd be D, D, E, D, G. Okay. And so essentially, if you're following me, you're changing. So all these scale degrees stay exactly the same, but it's the key that changes and the overall notes that change. You could do the same thing in the key of A. You know, you could go, okay, well, now I know the first couple notes are the fifth of the scale, 6, 5, and 1. Okay, well, now you just got to figure out those notes in the key of A. You could do an F sharp. I don't know what crazy person sings Happy Birthday in F sharp, but you know, maybe it's a progressive rock family, progressive band. I don't know. Anyways, yes, you're just taking whatever scale degree it is, whatever relation of that melody it is to the scale. Let's say Happy Birthday started on 1, so it'd be 1 1, and this wouldn't be Happy Birthday anymore, by the way. 1 1, and then it goes to an E, so it'd be 1 1 3 1. It would be a completely different melody, but you know, if it went from C, that would be the 1, E, C, E, C. Yeah, so if you're following me, again, like I said, you're referencing whatever the melody note is in relation to the scale and what scale degree it is. And this works with every single key. It works with riffs. It works with licks. Just this example was in Happy Birthday. You know. Our next way of transposing a riff, lick, or melody to a different key is just moving the pattern that you're playing to a different position on the fretboard. Works the same way on piano and other fretted instruments. It doesn't work so much on like saxophone, flute, any woodwinds, or brass. It's got to have a pattern-based instrument, so to speak. Now, the way this works is if I played a lick or a riff and I just moved it to a different position on the neck, I got to keep the same fret spacing, meaning like if it's 2 frets apart in the next, when I move it up, let's say it goes back from B flat to A flat. Well, now that's 1, 2 frets apart. Well, let's say I start on C. You got to move it 2 frets back then to B flat. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this with Chameleon by Herbie Hancock. Okay, starting right there on 6th fret. And then I'm moving over to your 4th string, 6th fret. So you got to keep the same, going from 6th string to 4th string. Up 2 frets. So if I move that around, I can move it anywhere. Or, you know, it's going to sound the same, it's just in a different key, okay? Well, to do the next part in the original key, you got to go back 4 frets. Next part is literally like the first part, just moved over a string. And you only go back 1 fret. So as long as you keep the same fret spacing and you move it around the neck, it's still going to work. It'll just be in a different key. So you're literally not thinking in terms of theory and notes. You're just thinking about, I got to move it to a different pattern, a different position on the neck. And it's probably the simplest way of doing this. but it also involves some ear training. And now we're going to think of transposing the same. We're actually going to use the same riff we were just using for the pattern-based approach, Chameleon by Herbie Hancock. We're going to think now in terms of chord tones, and we're going to think about transposing the same riff to a different position on the neck based off the chord tones. And we're going to think in terms of each chord is its own tonal center, and we approach it by, like, for instance, if you look behind me on the whiteboard, we have a B flat minor 7. The minus is for minor, okay? And you have, it's a shorthand for minor, you know. So then you also have E flat 7, okay? So you have two tonal centers essentially for this lick or riff. And I have them both written down. I have key of E flat major and B flat major. And I'll explain in a second why it's not B flat minor. We essentially compensate for the minor in a second by figuring out, oh, we flatted the third to make it minor. So therefore, you know, it's a D normally, we made it a D flat, okay? That being said, now let's look at the riff. Let's look at the riff and we'll break it down. So the part that is B flat minor 7. It's just that part right there. So we got to figure out what those notes are and how they fit in terms of this tonal center, B flat minor 7 or B flat major, okay? Here's a B flat. How does that fit in the key of B flat? Of course, it's a 1. So there you have it. It's your first notes. Right here, it's an A flat. How does that fit? Oh, wait, that's a 7 in your chord. Or a flat 7 in your B flat major. Okay. You go up 2 half steps, you're at another B flat, so you got an octave right here. So you have a root 7, I should say flat 7 if you're thinking in terms of B flat major scale. And you have another root. Root flat 7, root. Let's go to D minor 7. And we're going to attempt to put those notes within this chord. Meaning, so we know we start on our roots. So there's your first note, D. And then you jump over to your 7. In the tonal center of D minor 7, the notes are D, F, A, and C. So it's first, third, fifth, 7. D, F, A. Your 7 is a C. So C is your 7. Back to root. Okay. Now back to the initial key. We're in B flat. We know the first 3 notes. We got to figure out 3 more. How does this is a C right here. How does this fit in terms of B flat minor 7 or your overall B flat major scale? Look, C is the second note of the B flat major scale. And if you're thinking in terms of chord, if you put a C in there, it would actually make it a 9. That's another lesson we could go into, is how that all works and why you would spell it out like that. But that's a whole different thing. Don't worry about it right now. So your C is your second of that tonal center, B flat. So what is the second of D, since we're going back and forth between that and D minor 7? It's an E, okay? So, okay. Now, your next note is a D flat, if we went back to the initial key, I should say. D flat. What is D flat in terms of the tonal center? Well, if you think of the overall B flat major scale, it would be an accidental. But since we're on a minor chord, It is actually the flat 3 or the actual minor notes. Okay. And then you fall right back into the note of the major scale, the D. So in the key of D minor 7, your third, and I should say in D major, your third is an F sharp. Okay. Well, if we flat the third to make it minor, it's an F. So we have the same idea right here. And you're back to you resolve it to the major scale tone, which is your F sharp, which is your third in the key of D. You go back to the initial key. You resolve it to your third in the key of B flat, which is a D. Okay. I should say in the key of B flat major. Now, the next note is not the B flat minor 7's problem. It's like, you know what, good riddance to that next note. It is the E flat 7's problem. Okay. Well, guess what that note is? It's an E flat. So, probably guess, oh, an E flat chord. Well, the first note is an E flat. That's surprising. I'm kidding. So this is its own tonal center again. Okay. So your E flat is your first in the E flat 7 chord. And of course, your E flat major scale, the first note is an E flat. Okay. So your second note. Your second note is a D flat. What is D flat? Oh, it's the 7 of that chord. Okay. It's not actually in the E flat major scale, but you flat the 7 to get that dominant 7. You've got another octave. And E flat. So it's root, flat 7, root. Just like how the B flat minor 7 outlined that, it outlined that chord with your root, flat 7, 7. Your E flat 7 is doing the same. Okay, so if we went back to what we were using, where we were going in D minor 7, if we went to that, what would be the next chord in that key would be G7, G dominant 7. So in a G7 chord, the notes are G, B, and D, and the 7 is an F. So your second note is an F. Root 7, root, root, flat 7, root. Because as you know, it's not written up there. What was I thinking? You know, all of this, there's a lot of information here. I'll say this, there's a lot of information here. You probably have to rewind this part. I'm gonna have tags in there that, you know, timing tags, so you know exactly when each of these parts start. You can reference them and go back and check them and all that stuff. You'll probably need to, but I'm really just driving the point home, as I always do in these lessons, is that you're following the chord tones, and each of these is their own tonal center for whatever's played over top of them. Okay, and that's the approach we're using right now. We're going and we're just thinking of these as their own tonal center, and we're figuring out how those notes relate directly to that chord and their corresponding major scale. Now at this point, we've covered using the major scale to transpose a melody to a different key. We've covered just using a pattern on your instrument like guitar or piano and moving it to a different position on the neck. We've covered a chord as its own tonal center, and that's how you figure out the notes and how to transpose them to a different key. Okay, well, really this next part is a combination of all of them. Honestly, I have them all separated, but in all honesty, I use all of them all the time to figure out different positions of things, quick ways of doing it. You know, there's various reasons to do all of them, but I use all of them all the time. Now I may go, oh, if we went back to Chameleon, and I just needed to move it. I may already know that riff really, really well, to where I know how the notes work with the chords. So I already have that tonal center knowledge, so to speak, of each chord being its own tonal center. Okay. Well, I need to start in A flat. I know where A flat's at. I just move it there and I move the pattern. So I'm thinking of it in terms of its own tonal center, each chord being its own tonal center. But at the same time, I'm just moving it based off the pattern. Now, if this was a melody and I tried to move it based off the pattern, I could run into problems if I do this and it has some open strings. It would change the pattern and it would throw things off. So that's an example of, you would probably, I shouldn't say probably, I know you would look at it then based off of the major scale and how do those scale degrees work, like we did with Happy Birthday. Now, that just sounds really weird. It sounds like I'm throwing that so randomly in there. We're playing Chameleon, but we also played Happy Birthday. So it's all driving the point home. Like I've said, it's literally showing that, you can move the pattern, think of it still based in chord tones. You can move it and think of it as a major scale, as we kind of did in the part where we did talk about each chord being its own tonal center, is how the major scale would relate to all of it. And we could base it to build each chord and then build, the melody around it or the riff around it. So I would really recommend overall to say, or to look at it, I don't know why you'd say it out loud. You're practicing, you're just talking out loud. I'm encouraging people to talk out loud to themselves. No, what I'm getting at is I would use all of these to your fullest and to your advantage, because there's a situation for all of these and there's a reason to do all of these, and I would never limit your own knowledge. That being said, I'll see you next time, in Music Theory Mondays. In the meantime, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share it. That's the way we'll make the channel grow. And, let me know what else you'd like to learn and what else you'd like to see. I'm going to keep going. We're going strong. So I'll see you next week. You have a great week. Hey, this is Cameron Delo, and welcome to Music Theory Mondays. Today we will be covering how to read sheet music or standard notation, and that's right. I should say we're covering those dreaded black dots that are on the paper that you're scared of as a musician, especially as a guitar player. But other musicians are scared of it as well. And it's not really that hard. I'm going to simplify it enough so you can get a good grasp on it and get started on your music reading journey today. And what I have written behind me is the grand staff. This is where piano music is written. It's, if you were taking a college course, you would learn all your music theory from this, okay? And it has right here what is called a treble clef and a bass clef, both of them included, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. They both have 5 lines. We're going to figure out what that means and how to read it and what it means to you overall as a musician. We'll talk about note duration, time signatures, and all that good stuff. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. All right, first we're going to cover treble clef. Treble clef, if you remember from the first board I had at the beginning of the video on the grand staff, treble clef is the higher up and bass is the low. And if you think about it in terms of like dialing in your car radio, you turn up the treble really, really high. And it's got those almost harsh, really highs that almost pierce right through you. Now the bass, on the other hand, when you adjust it and you turn it up, it feels like that rumble, like it's making your stomach rumble. It's making the windows in your car shake, all that good stuff. But yeah, so we're covering the higher up in frequency right now, the treble clef. Now, treble clef, we're looking right here. I have letters written on each of those 5 lines that exist for the treble clef. And what those letters indicate is the notes you would be playing. So if there's like one of those circles or black dots, the actual notes on top of those lines, it would be what each one of these corresponding letters is, okay? So if you look on the very bottom line, I have an E. Second line up, G. Third line, B. Fourth line, D. And fifth line, F, okay? Now, if you look, I put a little circle, a little note here on the third line. What is that third line? It's a B. So right here is a B note, okay? Oh, this one right here, it's on the bottom line. It's an E note, okay? Now, there's various ways to go about remembering this. You can come up with your own ways. These are some of the most famous, most useful. First one, every good boy deserves fudge. And what that is E, G, B, D, F, which is what I have underlined. It's a way to remember with the first letter of each of those words is the letter of each of those lines, and you go up from the bottom to the top, okay? Second one is every good boy does fine, okay? Again, E, G, B, D, F, okay? Now this one, if you're a piano player, you probably don't want to use this one, but I guess you could. Every guitarist begins doing fine. E, G, B, D, F. Okay? So that's if you're on top of the lines, okay? Each corresponding line. Now in the spaces, it's a whole other ball game, as you'll see down here. Okay? So it starts at the bottom again. F, A, C, E. What does that spell? Face. It spells face. It's as simple as that. It spells face. Now the saying, face in the space. Easy, right? Now, I put some notes again at the end of this. You have one on this 1, 2, third space up. Makes that a C, okay? I have it on the second space up. It's an A, okay? So I have that just so you can kind of see how this is working and why you would be saying every guitarist begins doing fine or face in the space. You know, and again, it's all whatever you use to memorize, you know, these letter patterns for the notes. Now, one last thing is with the treble clef, one thing you can just take note of is that this circle always will pierce the second line up, which is a G. It'll always pierce the G line, okay? So that's treble clef. These are how you figure out what note is what. Okay, so we looked at the treble clef. Now let's look at the bass. We'll look at those bass notes and what their letter names are, depending on if they're on the line or in the space. And as before, there's various ways to go about this and various ways to remember this. This is, of course, the bass clef. The bass clef is lower in frequency. It's like the car analogy where you crank up your bass, you got that rumble, feels like you're feeling it in your stomach, feeling it in your core, shaking the windows, all that good stuff. Now, we're going to first look, just like we did in the treble clef, we're going to look at the notes on the lines and their letters names, okay? And of course, I have the letters written down. It's G from the bottom, G, B, D, F, and A, okay? So you have various sayings to go about this. Good boys do fine always. G, B, D, F, A. And I have them underlined, of course. The next one is the one I'm more familiar with. Great big dogs fight animals. G, B, D, F, A. Remember, you're going up from the bottom with these words. The first letter of each of these words corresponds with each of these letters going up from the bottom. It's kind of a harder way to say this simple thing, but yeah. Okay, so if you use your saying, you're trying to figure out this note. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 notes up from the bottom. Great big dogs fight. It's an F note, okay? It's second line up for this next one, right? Big to B notes, okay? So this is for this for the lines, okay? Now we will look at the spaces, okay? So you have from the bottom A, C, E, G, okay? Again, A, C, E, G from the bottom. And the saying goes, all cars eat gas, okay? A, C, E, G, and it's underlined. Or your other option, all cows eat grass. Now, you really don't want to get either of those mixed up. For one, gasoline is really expensive. And can you imagine putting, I don't know why I did that. Can you imagine putting grass in your gas tank? That's so long car, you know. So those are your two sayings. They're kind of easy to get mixed up when you say them back to back. That's the only reason I bring that up. But that's for the spaces, okay? And I have two letters written down or two notes written down so we can test ourselves. This is the first space. All A, easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one's the fourth space. All cars eat gas. It's a G, okay? So that's how you would go about memorizing what is what in the spaces, as well as on the lines in the bass clef. One last thing with the bass clef, if you use your saying, great big dogs fight, this line is always surrounded by the two dots. It is the F line. So that's one way to quickly figure out, you know, where you're at and get your footing, so to speak, on the bass clef. Okay, so we've covered so far the notes in treble clef and the notes in bass clef and how to figure out what they are and various sayings and things to go about this. That's only one element of the puzzle, because once you know the notes, you have to figure out how to play them and how to make them sound musical. And that's where time signatures and note duration comes in, okay? So a time signature, and well, the piece of music I have on the board, I should say, before I get ahead of myself, is Jingle Bells. Pretty much everyone knows Jingle Bells. They've at least heard it. I'm going to play it in this, of course. But the time signature is located at the very beginning of a piece of music, in this case, Jingle Bells. It's always located to the right of either the treble clef or the bass clef, okay? So it's right here. The top number is how many beats per measure. Again, the top number is how many beats per measure. The bottom number is what kind of note gets the beat. In this case, it would be a fourth, so it would be a quarter note, okay? A fourth is a quarter, okay? So you have 4 quarter notes and 4/4. So the top number is how many beats per measure. Bottom number is what kind of note gets the beat. So if we had something like 6/8 time, that would be 6 beats per measure with an eighth getting the beat. So that would be an eighth note. So it would be 6/8 notes per measure. Okay. We could go crazy and go something in 2/2 time. So it'd be 2 beats per measure with a half note getting the beat, because 2, okay, a half. Okay. So in this case, we don't need to think about all those crazy time signatures. We're just thinking in terms of Jingle Bells, easy 4/4 time. Okay, first I'll play it. Okay, I don't have all of it. I have most of it on the board, or I should say a good chunk of it on the board right here. Okay, so it's in 4/4 time. That's the time signature. So that means there's 4 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. Okay, so that means it starts out with, if you look, this is a quarter note. A darkened note with the stem, that right there is a quarter note. Okay, so there's 2 quarter notes. 1, 2. Now the next one that's not filled in, I actually have it marked right here, but it's the same thing right here. It's a half note, so there's 2 beats. So that fills up your entire measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be your first line because you the jingle bells, so on, yeah. And the next measure is full of all quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you get to a whole note. So the note rings the entire 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. So from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're into the next measure. 3 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3. And it's broken down even farther to an 8th note, so it's a little quicker. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Let me play it again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's these 2 measures right here. Okay, followed by another measure of all quarter notes. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Ends on 2 half notes. Okay, so this gives you, I mean, obviously we could break this down even farther. We could go into more time signatures. We could break it into, 16th notes, 32nd notes, all of that good stuff. But we're just giving you the basics of music reading and to get you started and have fun on this journey. And yeah, so this is the most basic way of reading this. It's in 4/4 time. You got quarter notes, half notes, whole notes, and 8th notes, as well as us understanding, since we're in treble clef, we could use our saying, what's in the space? So it's F-A-C-E. It's an E note at the beginning, okay? We can put all of it together. We can put all of our stuff that we've learned together. Oh, it's on the line. So every good boy deserves fudge, since it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines up, okay? So everything can be put together and it could help you discover how to play lots of cool songs and things that you wouldn't normally be able to play because you couldn't read sheet music, but now you can. Okay, so right now we have the basic tools to read music and apply it to any other lesson that I've done in this series. Well, how do we actually apply it to our instruments? And I'm going to give you 4 ways to go about this. And it's not in any particular order. It's just how I'm going to go. I mean, one's not more important than the other. You should use them all in all reality. But my first way is method books. Right here I have the guitar method book for from Hal Leonard. Book 1 shows you a step-by-step reading each string in the open position, and they have 3 books in the series. Mel Bay has a legendary great series. Alfred, any of them. Same thing with bass. It works the same way for the Hal Leonard series. But a methodology book will help you step by step in a more in-depth way than just the video did. Now, the next way is, once you figure this stuff out, it's like anything, to always be practicing it. So always be reading a new piece of music. It could be testing your skills of, I'm going to try to sight read it, and on the spot, I'm going to take a really basic, depending on your level, and take a really basic piece of music, and I would read it, and I would see how well I do. Okay, and you could practice it up and everything, because that's what I would recommend, is practicing up. The sight reading also would give you a whole new element in building up the music reading and general skills. But next would be to actually get a teacher. Now, I teach remotely as well as in person, but it doesn't have to be me. It doesn't even have to be for guitar or ukulele or bass. It could be piano. It could be bagpipes. Seems like I always brag on bagpipes in these videos, but saxophone, flutes, in any instrument like that. It could be that, and it would help you. The teacher would help you step by step in reading those notes and reading music in general and building upon that. And last but not least is watching videos. Watch these videos, watch other people's videos, subscribe to me. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell so you know when I'm posting stuff. Share it. And you know, that helps me, it helps you, it helps other people reading music because I'm sharing this information. And do the same for someone else too. Let's pay it forward. Let's have a good time and make all the communities grow on YouTube. But yeah, so do all that good stuff. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and it'll help the channel grow, as I said. But we will see you next time on Music Theory Mondays. And let me know in the comments, you know, what you'd like to see, if you have any more questions on music reading in general. And I will see you next time. Hey, this is Cameron Delo. Welcome to Music Theory Mondays. Today we'll be covering what I was just playing, the famous jazz standard, Autumn Leaves. We'll be looking at it from a music theory perspective. So we'll look at the key signature, how the chords relate, and transposing it to a different key. This is all things we've done before in Music Theory Mondays. So it shouldn't be too hard. And we got a lot to do. So let's just go ahead and get started. All right, so we're analyzing the head or main melody to the famous jazz standard Autumn Leaves. When we're analyzing a piece of music, first things first, we figure out what key it's in. And how do you do that from a piece of sheet music? Well, it's quite simple. So you see the treble clef right here and the time signature right here. It'll be located right between there. It is either a number of sharps or flats or nothing. And what this tells you is, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. First things first, what is in the key signature? Well, there's one hashtag. Oh wait, I mean sharp. And it's on what line? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5 lines up, so it's every good boy deserves fudge. It's on the F line because it's pierced right through it. So there's one sharp, it's an F sharp. What key is this? It's G. It's in the key of G major. And what does that mean? It means that throughout the piece of music, you assume any F that you run into, you assume that it's sharp, okay? Unless otherwise notated by a natural sign, which sometimes happens. But in this case, we can look through it again. Nothing's written in. Oh, on the first ending, there's a couple things written in. And what are they? A C sharp and a D sharp. It's written in because it's not in the key signature. It doesn't relate to that key signature. So how does that work? Well, each chord in a melody and in anything is its own tonal center. It fits with a B7. D sharp is the third of B. Okay? Now, and these are called accidentals. I don't know if I said that. Accidentals are notes that are written in that fit the melody, but not the overall key. So they're written in to make it work. These are accidentals. Okay? So that D sharp wouldn't work with a D7 chord. Because it's kind of like, here's a D, here's a D sharp. Not a very pretty sounding interval. sharp doesn't work with an A minor 7. It doesn't work. So it works specifically with that chord. And then the next measure, it just goes back to normal because it's not written in the key signature. So the rest of the song is good. So anytime, like I said, you run into an F, you assume it's sharp. It's in the key of G major. Okay, now that we know the key signature, next step is to look at the chords. The chords in relation to the key of G major, okay? So our first chord is an A minor 7. How we do this is like, what is A in relation to G in the G major scale? It's 2, okay? So we know when we harmonize the major scale that 2 is always minor. So it fits perfectly, A minor 7. Okay. Your next chord is a D. What is D in relation to key of G? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th, and when we harmonize the major scale, should be a 7. Fits perfectly. Wow. And oh, wow. Our next chord's a G major 7. What is G in the key of G? It's, of course, 1, and 1 is major. What is C in the key of G? 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. It's the 4th, and it's a major 7. It is also a major 7. If we spelled out all these chords, they would all fit in the key signature, by the way. We have an F sharp minor 7 flat 5. It almost sounds like I'm just going to keep going and keep saying F sharp minor 7 flat 5 brownie light bulb paper. Where am I going with that? I don't know. It's just a long name for a chord. But what is F sharp in relation to G major? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a 7. And when we harmonize the major scale, it is diminished. This is half diminished. And we spelled it out. All the notes fit within the key of G major, and including the F sharp. Now we run into a problem. As we said before, there's accidentals written in here. Accidentals kind of give away that the chord's going to be kind of weird to the key signature. Now, there is a B in the key of G, obviously. G, B, D. It's the third of the major scale, but typically the third is a minor. In this case, it's not. It's a major. So it puts that D sharp in there, which is in the melody. There's not a D sharp in the key signature, so it clashes with the rest of it. But as I said before, each chord is its own tonality. And this fits, along with the C sharp, fits right with the B7. It doesn't fit with the other chords that I showed before. But you have a major 3 for the B7. Now, last but not least, you have an E minor 7. E minor 7 is what to the key of G? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 6 to the key of G, which is your relative minor, which makes it minor, so it fits perfectly, okay? And there you have it. Those are the chords for Autumn Leaves, the head to Autumn Leaves. A big thing to take note in the chord progression to Autumn Leaves is the use of a 2-5-1 chord progression. And a 2-5-1, you can visually see it. 2, 5, and 1. It's basically meaning chord built off of the 2nd degree of the G major scale, chord built off of the 5th degree of the G major scale, followed by a 1. Okay? Minor 2, 5, and 1. used so much in jazz, it's worth taking note because you'll recognize it, pick it up instantly. You'll know how to solo over it right away. It happens all the time. And it happens sometimes in pop and rock, but it's huge in jazz. It's used as a turnaround to resolve to the one all the time. Like I said, we can use a couple examples. George on my mind toward the end. 2, 5. So it resolves right into the main melody, the head. We could also do, let me think, Fly Me to the Moon has it, and it resolves itself. It turns around right into the head. So you hear that. So the 2-5-1 is everywhere. You can hear it everywhere. Those are two jazz standards that it happens in. And of course it happens in Autumn Leaves, but not so much a turnaround. It happens right in the melody where it's so 2, 5, 1. So like I said, it's everywhere. It's in turnarounds, it's in the melody, and it's definitely worth taking note of a 2-5-1 progression. At this point, you know the key that Autumn Leaves is in, the chords that are in Autumn Leaves, and how they relate to that key, and that there's a 2-5-1 progression right in the main melody, the head. So our last thing to do when we're doing all this is how would you go about transposing this? The easiest way to transpose this. I won't go into every which way. I'll just go into the easiest way for you as a musician, as a guitarist, or even a pianist would be, is you're going to look at the chords first and foremost. Okay? So in the initial key, it's 2, 5, 1, major 4, half diminished 7, major 3, minor 7, sorry, I should say 6. That is a minor 7 chord. Minor 6. There you go. Okay, so let's say somebody says, let's play it in the key of C. And you need to know how to transpose that, and kind of in a quick method. You can't just move your hand around. If you're putting a capo on there, you may not know exactly where everything sits or what it is and all that good stuff. You want to know what it is, honestly. So 2 in the key of C major, 5, 1, major 4, half diminished 7, major 3, and minor 6. Now I'd go back after that and go, what are those chords? I just kind of figured it out. I moved the position, and that's what I would do first and foremost. And then you could figure out melody in relation to those chords. You could figure out in relation to the overall key signature. But this is how I would go about transposing the key of Autumn Leaves first and foremost, is the chords. All right, there you have it. We've analyzed the head or main melody of Autumn Leaves. And this is just a couple of ways of going about it. This is my approach. Somebody else may do this entirely differently. I mean, we'll all amount to the same idea, but this is just my approach. I do this with, different jazz standards, pop songs, rock songs, you name it. But I feel like it's a good approach, and I wanted to share it with you here on Music Theory Mondays. We'll do more of these. We'll definitely do, coming up shortly, the bridge to Autumn Leaves. And yeah, I hope you have a good week. Keep jamming, keep rocking, and we'll see you next week on Music Theory Mondays.